In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to add Auth0 to your client applications. So on the left side, let's go to the clients page. Here we create a new client. Give it a name like Vega app. Now from the client type list, here we have native, which is used for mobile or desktop applications that run natively in a device. We've got single page applications like Angular. We've got regular web applications, which is like a traditional ASP.NET MVC application rendering views on the server, and non-interactive clients, like if you have a CLI, a daemon, or a service running in the background. So here we select single page web applications. And finally, create. Once again, we have this quick start tab. So you can select the type of technology you're going to use to build your single page application. In this case, we're going to use Angular 2. When we select that, we see all the steps to add authentication to our client application. But once again, I'm going to show you these steps in the video. In the future, if you forget these steps, you can always come back here. Now, the first thing I want you to do, which is unfortunately not highlighted in the documentation, and it took me quite a while to figure it out, is to go to the Settings tab, then scroll down to the bottom, and click Show Advanced Settings. Then under OAuth tab, change the JSON Web Token signature algorithm from HS256 to RS256. This is the asymmetric encryption algorithm that we use for our API. So if you don't change this here, the tokens that you receive in your client app, you cannot send them to the server. And then you run into all sorts of weird issues, and this is going to be very, very painful. So make sure to select RS256 here. And then save changes. Now, if you look at the quick start, you can see we need to install 2 npm modules. So npm install. One is auth0-log, which provides a basic authentication widget. The other package is Angular2-JWT. And this is a helper library for working with JSON Web Tokens in an Angular 2 app. And finally, --save. Now we need to add these two libraries in our vendor bundle. So let's go to webpack.config.vendor.js. So here I'm going to add Angular2-JWT. And once again, note that I'm sorting these alphabetically. And then auth0-log. Save. Now back in the terminal, we're going to run webpack-config with webpack.config.vendor.js. Okay, beautiful. Now back in the quick start documentation, if you scroll down, you see some sample code that we need to copy paste into our Angular application. Now I have explored this code in detail in my advanced Angular course, but here I'm going to give you a brief overview one more time. So let's copy all this code. Back in VS Code, in our services folder, I'm going to add a new service, auth.service.ts. Paste the code. So here we're defining an authentication service that we're going to inject into our components. This service has 3 important methods. One is login, which simply delegates to log.show. This log here is part of auth0-log library that we just installed. And when we call this show method, it simply displays a login widget. And you're going to see that in a second. We also have authenticated, which returns true if the user has a valid authentication token. So here we're simply delegating to token not expired function. And this function is part of Angular2-JWT. And all it does is it looks inside the local storage of the browser. And if you have a key by this name, ID_token, and the value of this key is a valid JSON Web Token that is not expired, it returns true. Finally, we have this logout method, which removes this token from the local storage. Now, this code has a number of issues, and we're going to fix them one by one. The first issue is the name of the key used for storing tokens. we need to change this from ID underline token to just token, because this is the direction that auth0 is going towards. So in the other library, Angular2-JWT, they have updated this default key, but it's not reflected in the sample code that you get from their website. So put the cursor here, and in VS Code, we have multi-cursor editing. So if you press Command and D on Mac or Control and D on Windows, you can see ID underline token is highlighted. Now press Command and D one more time. Here's the second occurrence. And one more time. Here's the third one. And one more time. Here's the fourth one. Note that we have multiple cursors on the screen. So we can update all this in one go. Simply type token and press escape. Done. Now on the top, the second issue we need to fix is the declaration of this auth0 lock object. If you run this code in the browser, you're going to see an error. Auth0 lock is not defined. So in order to properly put this in our bundle using Webpack, we need to import it. So I'm going to change this to import auth0 lock from auth0-lock. Note that I'm not using curly braces here. This is the proper syntax to import auth0 lock. Now, before we move on, there is one more thing I want to highlight here. In the constructor, here we are subscribing to the authenticated event of the lock object. And this event is fired when the user successfully logs in. So here we're storing this token in the local storage. Now, to give you a better understanding of what happens under the hood, I'm going to do console.log and simply log this auth result object that we get in our event handler. So auth result. Now finally, we need to register this as a provider. So let's go to app.module and in the providers array, add the auth service. Now the sample code doesn't have the word service in the class name. You can add it or leave it as is. It's up to you. Let's import the namespace. Beautiful. So next, I'm going to show you how to use this service to show or hide content from the user and give them the ability to log in and log out.